All right, guys, I am just hopping on here. Yes, welcome to Resilient by Design. I skipped that part because that part's coming up. I just wanted to let you know that this episode is a rebroadcast of one of our top episodes with a beautiful guest, Mia Perez of Mia Perez Design. And I just wanted to let you know that Mia is someone pretty special. She is going to be the primary guest on our panel this fall at the Designer Meetup, November 9th at the Collective Workspace. So have a listen to this episode. After, you're going to have tons of questions for Mia that you can ask when you come to see her in person at the November 9th Meetup. All right, that's it. Enjoy the episode.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I interview Mia Perez of Mia Perez Design. Wow, what a phenomenon, an incredible multi-passionate entrepreneur who started her career she went to school for design, but then she got a pilot for a TV show and she worked for Sarah Richardson. Oh my gosh, she shares it all. I had no idea how she started. I find it fascinating and I love hearing everyone's stories and how unique they are. And oh my goodness, here's what I love the most about Mia. She is just so generous with her knowledge and she's collaborative. And I just love that. I love that this podcast gives me the opportunity to interview like-minded women who are here to support each other and build each other up. And if you're listening to this podcast, you are probably also one of these women. So thank you for being a part of this community. I think it's really incredible what we are doing. We are transforming an industry. And I think it's the right time in the universe to be really paying attention to the power of helping each other versus competing with each other. All right. This episode's really great. Towards the end of the episode, Mia shares a new business idea that came out of the pandemic for her. And it's really exciting. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Mia Perez.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Welcome, Mia, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here with you and also to see your face. I know they can't see us, but I can see you. So it's really nice.
Yeah, it's really nice to finally connect, quote unquote, in person. I feel like we've been messaging, DMing for what feels like years.
Yeah.
Wow. One day we'll actually meet in person. It'll be fantastic. But
I would love that.
I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. I'd love for you to just in your own words, introduce yourself to our audience.
Amazing. Yes. My name is Mia Perez. I am a high-end residential designer based out of Toronto with clients all over North America, the Cayman Islands, and I'm also a host on HGTV and a dog mom. Those are my traits. I'm a designer. I've been a designer for, it feels like most of my life now. I started in the industry, just a little background about me. I started in the industry as an architect. I wanted to be just like my dad, who's a theme park architect. And I did 2 degrees in interior design and architecture, and then started working for Sarah Richardson and shot a pilot for HGTV completely separately. And then managed to dive into the TV world while I was becoming a designer and have just kind of juggled both. And I think, as women in this world, we know how to wear many hats. So it's just been a part of my career since day one. And in the last couple of years, I've lived in the Cayman Islands as a designer and just flew back and forth to film for HGTV. And now I'm based in Toronto. relaunched MPD, Mia Paris Design. I'm principal designer, and we have a wonderful, incredible team that we're growing and building every day. And yeah, I'm happy to be back in Canada. I missed Canada. I missed Toronto. And that's me in a nutshell. And, fresh off the plane from the Cayman Islands, I picked up my puppy Moose 30 minutes later. And ever since then, I've just been a Toronto-based dog mom. That's my real profession.
Oh, I have a pup too. I get it. Although he's now at the bottom of the totem pole because I have children. So
Yes.
He was like our number one, and now he's, sorry to say it, he's number three.
Number three, yeah. And they're always puppies, aren't they?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, hold on. I did not know all of these things about you. I don't know how I did it. So can we I want to just take it back a moment. I didn't know, first of all, that you worked at Sarah Richardson Design.
Yes. Yeah. That was a big sort of foundation of my career. It's actually kind of a hilarious story in the industry, but I was still in school, going back to my second degree in interior design. I studied at Ryerson and Parsons in New York. And as I was finishing, I am such a production nerd. I was always like in theater, like in high school, but I was doing the sets. I was never really on stage. And I was doing production for a TV show as an intern, and they offered me my own show. And it was wonderful and crazy. And I was in my early 20s, and I went to my professor at the time and I asked her advice. I said, I'm almost graduated my second degree in interior design. What do you think I should do? And her name is Professor Vogel. I'll never forget her, Ryerson. She was like, well, you're asking me advice. So I think, you came to the source, and I'm going to tell you to finish school. Like, if that opportunity is there for you when you leave, it will still be there. And to me, I was like, potentially I'm letting this opportunity go. So I finished my degree, I graduated, and I thought, what was my dream job in the design world? And it was to work for Sarah Richardson. And there was no one else. I didn't apply anywhere else. And, you think about it. I mean, we talk about it more a lot these days in the world about manifesting your dreams. And I sat down and thought, like, if I worked there and someone was to apply for a job, I just imagined like thousands of girls lining up down the streets, like wanting to work there. And so I reached out to one of her senior designers. She has like an incredible team that have been so loyal to her over the years. And I reached out to one of the seniors, wrote them a love letter, just gushing and, super excited to be starting out in the industry and thinking this was the best place to be, to learn, to grow. And, all these years later, that senior told me her husband read the letter and was like, you need to hire this girl. And I started working there. And 4 months later, my pilot, after graduating from school, we shot a pilot for HGTV. And 4 months later, my pilot was picked up, and I had just started with Sarah and had the most nerve-wracking meeting with her ever. Had to walk into her office and tell her that I had a show on HGTV, and it was something, an opportunity I just didn't want to pass up, but I also really didn't want to leave. And I was scared her reaction was going to be negative. And I was so happily surprised. She was so supportive as a woman in this industry. And I was really young, and she had like great advice for me. Even when it came to like my contracts, which is something I want to talk to you about. But she was like such a great mentor, and she wanted me to do both. So I ended up for many years doing 10 months on, 10 months off as a designer. It was hard to do both when I was filming. But then I would come back, as a junior and work my way up as an intermediate, as a senior. And I stayed there for a couple of years. And then I transitioned to the Cayman Islands and flew back and forth for HGTV. So that was kind of my starting point with Sarah.
Wow. Okay. Like, I'm so in awe of you already right now, because my dream was to work for Sarah Richardson.
I know. It's pretty great.
Like, she was at the time when I was in design school or pre-design school, right? Like, it was like Design Inc. Like her show. She was awesome. I loved her style, loved her personality. like, she is going to be my best friend. But I never had the balls to apply to work with her. So I think that's fantastic. I love that story. I've heard similar stories of how supportive she's been to, female entrepreneurs, and she's a multi-passionate entrepreneur as you are, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. So, okay, this is insane. People are like, oh, we'll just shoot a pilot. I got my dream job. Oh, I got the show. Like, hello, girl, you're living the dream. How did you end up in the Cayman Islands, though?
Yeah, I mean, a crazy work opportunity came up for my partner at the time. And I was starting my own firm in Toronto. So I just left Sarah to go out on my own. I mean, a lot of us there had such great training and education. And I had, with the show, been given so many incredible opportunities to meet new clients. And once I felt like I had the right level of experience, I was sort of ready to fly the nest. And she was so supportive. Same with Tommy as well, Tommy Smythe. And my partner at the time was offered a job in the Cayman Islands. We scouted it out, and it ended up being just almost better than you can imagine. I was picturing like moving to the Bahamas, never being able to get my nails done, and like there's one orange in the grocery store. I just thought it was, but I mean, it's such an incredible island, grouping of islands, and it's so established, and it's really geared at like high-end luxury living. And so a level of development there alone is like astounding. It's really focused on like millionaire investments, a lot of new builds, a lot of people moving down there from Canada, actually, to start their families and their lives and incredible careers. And it's obviously, we live in such a global world, and this is pre-pandemic, but for them, their way of living was just to travel back and forth to Miami, throughout the world. Like, it was kind of a dream scenario. And I moved there and ended up working for a company called Design Studio Interiors, run by a husband and wife team that are actually Canadians. The wife is Caymanian Canadian. And it was wonderful. They were just very similar to Sarah, super supportive of all of the hats I wore. They loved when I flew back and forth to film for HGTV. I promoted, their company on my social media. And I would say, my time and experience down there, those people are my family. They just really supported me, my design career. And I, looking back now as we do, I feel like I learned so much. Like it was so invaluable to me as a designer. And, it's a totally different landscape of design down there. We're sourcing a lot from the US and internationally, because we're shipping everything in. And, the lay of the land in terms of design is pretty exciting and enticing. It's just also, you have to have an enormous amount of patience. And you have to build a great team around you. So I felt like I was a part of a really strong team and great work ethic, and, very similar to Sarah Richardson Design, that group mentality of, we all have the same design ethos or, core. And oddly enough, one of the seniors I worked side by side with down there, his name's Robert. He's actually from Toronto and had a background working for Brian Gluckstein. So we were both in the Cayman Islands. He's in his, I'm going to say he's in his 40s, but he's really established in the design world and had a really great career in Canada. And, he just wanted a simpler life. He loved diving. And, since being down there has his dive master's degree, and we really connected. And I think that time down there, I'm hoping he'll move back and we'll collaborate, because that's another thing I realized is our design world, even with your podcast, with so many realms that we all connect as designers. And I think it's really special that wherever you worked previously, whoever you speak to, it doesn't even have to be in person. It can be on Zoom. It can be listening to another person's podcast. It could be a DM on Instagram, but other designers are incredibly supportive of one another. And I think that's how all of our careers have been built so successfully, is we've learned from each other. And so the Cayman Islands for me was very much that. I did come back to Canada for family reasons. My dad was ill. He's doing wonderful now. So I can say that, with a big smile on my face, but I just couldn't leave. It's too good here.
That's so wonderful. It's so cute to hear you say like you're so happy to be back here. That's how I felt when I moved back here after being in Vancouver. I was like, yes, finally back home. Sometimes you just need to like fly away to then appreciate where you've come from. That is an incredible experience. Oh God, I feel like we could have an entire episode just dedicated to that experience, but we won't because today we have things we want to talk about. And I love that you mentioned that, that I really do think that we're kind of coming up in an industry at a different time. I think the industry has changed. And I think, it's like you say that ethos, like we're not everybody, but I think that a lot of designers that I'm seeing, and maybe it's because I have this podcast and like attracts like, I don't know, but I am seeing so much more collaboration. And you mentioned that, you even like are sharing, like there's the idea of like hiring freelancers that work for other designers, right? I think you mentioned to me on the phone that you're, sharing an admin with other designer friends of yours. And I don't know. I think it's such a great, way of being open and sharing. It's not that old method of, like holding your cards so close. Don't share trade. I don't want my administrative person. She has the time, but if she works for you, what does that mean? Is she going to share my secrets or are you going to steal her from me? Like it's not like as much. And I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah. And it's funny. My mom is like an arts and events planner and director. I mean, she's retired now, but her job and role in life was to connect people. And she was just out in the world connecting like-minded artists and singers and performers. And when I went to design school, I felt such a different vibe. I felt like everyone was very secretive and didn't want to share what programs they were using and what mistakes they made. And everyone was afraid to fail. And it was, the real world is really the opposite of that. It's quite enriching to learn from your own mistakes. But imagine if we could all share our mistakes and learn from each other. And that's where I'm like, wow, that is, reminds me of what my mom did, where it's like, we can all connect and collaborate. And if we do that, we're almost more powerful on our own, as a group, right? I think there's like some cheesy saying, if you want to go, somewhere, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together, or something like that. But like, I butchered that, but
Yeah, I get the gist. So I want to dive in, talk about like the learning part of running a business. And so it's like you've come to the table with a really great background, having worked for two strong firms that clearly were very good at mentoring their team and had sort of it buttoned down. But at the same time, I'm sure there's still a learning experience when you have your own business. And I kind of want to talk about that because you mentioned that earlier. And like talk to me about contracts, because not all designers have them, let's first say. And some of us just have like, for the longest time, I had a one pager that was like, sign here. That's it. Describe about your experience and with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as most of us did during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time learning a new skill. And my skill that I really focused on, and I still feel like I haven't even, seen the tip of the iceberg, but was sort of starting a small business and being an entrepreneur and really learning from other people in our field and even beyond who have faced similar issues and come up with really smart savvy ways to scale their businesses and grow larger. And I think, there's a potential there when you try to push too far that you fail. And I think as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs, we never give up, right? Failure is not even an option, and it's really a learning lesson. And I think finding those lessons in yourself, but also in other business owners, and really just asking for help, I think was the biggest lesson that I learned and took and applied to my business. Was I can't do everything on my own, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the skill sets. I was trying to do admin, invoicing, bookkeeping, balancing, and be a hands-on, face-to-face, client-facing designer. And I think I learned my strong suit is that I care for my clients and that they really mean the most to me. And they're the reason, what's the French word? My raison d'être. They're my reason to be. I really value them and what we build together in the design sphere. And I think I can leave the rest of the stuff like admin and various other things to the professionals. And I think as I grew my business coming home from the Cayman Islands, grew our team, we're now a team of 4. And I started to think about a couple of things. One of them was, how can I protect my business? How can I protect myself, my employees, my clients, especially? And how can we be completely transparent and have the same level of expectations when we go into working together? Because I think, we're very lucky in Toronto. Like, a lot of people are incredibly smart. I think all of our clients are just like so brilliant and cool and with it. And there's just the odd job we do that something goes wrong. And, if we had just been clear from the beginning, it wouldn't have been an issue, period, or even a big issue. And that sort of got me rethinking about, how do we structure our business? Like, let's start back at the beginning. We're growing, we're moving forward, but let's go back to square one. And I was the same as you. I had a 1-pager. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, yep. Like, I feel you. It's that, okay. Mm-hmm. So I feel like sometimes when I get frustrated, I feel as though I'm moving 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I don't know if you felt that, where you're like, we're so much progress, and then frick, like something is setting us back. And it's like, okay, back to square one. And sometimes it feels a little bit like starting again, whether you're establishing a new process, like rejigging your contract or reevaluating your team structure, whatever it might be. It is a constant learning. And I love that you say, entrepreneurs, like the successful ones, I think that's what you said, are the ones that just don't give up. You just keep going, no matter what the setback. And I know for me personally, I've had several setbacks in this calendar year. It's been really hard for me in terms of business. And these setbacks they've really like toyed with my mental strength as an entrepreneur and caused me to ask these questions of, oh my God, is this even for me? Do I want to do this? What do I want to do? Like, this keeps happening. Does this mean I don't know how to do this one thing or whatever it might be? And I'm like, no, I have to remember that, just keep going, get back up, dust yourself off, and like reevaluate and start again. And
I think, I totally sympathize with everything you're saying, even in this calendar year. I feel for you. I feel for all entrepreneurs, designers, business owners. And now is when we need each other more than ever. Like, I think we need to talk about these challenges we're facing and new issues. I mean, cough, like timelines and deliveries and like, various other things that are just like staples now in our industry. And, voicing that as the new normal, I think is important. And also, like you said, like taking 1 step forward, I think sometimes it's almost like 20 steps backwards. Like, it sometimes can feel, it's like actually starting over.
I know, it's so dramatic, but it feels that way sometimes. It feels like, oh my God, I feel like everything was for naught. Yeah,
exactly. And then I'm always like, okay, so we're facing something, like maybe you had a bad day, but the next day is like a new opportunity to start over and, come up with a solution. And I don't always think I have the best solution or the only solution. And I love input from others. And I think what I've gained as in terms of like insight the last couple of years is like professionals. We did reach out through our accountant to another designer. We did sort of adopt a Kimberly Selden contract. We had a team of lawyers look it over, rejig it. And we invested in our business and our company in order to protect us and our clients and our employees. And, it kind of started originally when I was interviewing a couple of girls to work with me was, what did they want to gain out of working for another designer? Like, what are their goals and what can we like almost put down on paper as like, let's be very clear about what you're hoping to gain from this process. And I think the same thing applies, with our clients, with our interactions with vendors, contractors. I think it's good to be honest and like authentic and transparent about what you're hoping for. And that can all be put into a contract. And I think having that maybe annually revising it or just tweaking it, I think it's something that if you had from the beginning of your business, you wouldn't even realize how valuable it is. Like I was very similar to you. I had a 1-page, like, we're buddies, let's work together. But also like, here's how we operate. We share X in discounts. We charge X amount, and, here's what to expect for a full renovation. And here's what to expect for a furniture package. But that was it. Like no other, details. And I think now protecting liability, I wish it was something that they taught us in design school or taught us in high school. If that was like a business, or if you wanted to become an entrepreneur, like teach us how to do our taxes, teach us how to write a contract, and then have a lawyer look at it. Like, how great would that be? But here we are, learning from each other.
Design school, unfortunately, I think prepares you only for working at a big firm, which is lovely if that's what you want to do. But I think the majority of people going into design have every intention of just kind of doing their own thing. And so you're not really set up for that 100%. I mean, I love hearing you say that about, the contract liability and protecting your, I think that's interesting. So do you have a Mia Perez design contract for any designers that are on your team that's like unique to you? That's so, I've never heard anyone talk about that before.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I worked for other designers, there was maybe an unspoken rule about like sharing content that you worked on while you were with the team. And I have some juniors now working for me that, like, one of my questions when I hired them was like, how invested do you want to be? Or do you want to grow your social media? Do you want to put this on your website when you leave? Like, in order, I had the same issues when I left. I had been working for other designers, and it needed to be very clear, like what you can and can't share. And even writing that down, if that's something that matters to you, we're all different. We all have different ownership and feelings towards, people that work for your design company sharing your work. But in my perspective, I want my team to feel invested, and I want them to use the projects and put them out there, and just tag me in it. Like, that's my rule is, just acknowledge your time with us, and but also take ownership for it, because I think the more invested our employees are, the better the work. And that's what makes a great designer, is someone who is, really loves what they're doing and their clients. And I want someone who's just starting out to get a taste of that. Even if that's something they want to go start their own business, that's incredible. Like, I applaud that. And I encourage that, just like I was, treated the same in my career. But so having that written down, I think is really important. And, that can extend everything. I've signed contracts about trade secrets, like, let's not share which is also kind of cool, because then we're in this like design club where it's, we've got some cool secrets up our sleeves. And I think that's what clients value, is that we do have these connections, and you don't want an employee to work for you and then move on and tell the internet everything that you do to run your business. It should be, it should be an unspoken rule, but sometimes it just needs to be said, I think. And I haven't encountered any issues with that, but yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, the trade secrets thing, it's like so true. It's like, as much as you want to collaborate and you want to share and you want to share with your colleagues, like, oh, use this vendor, there's also that amount of shit. Like, I've taken me like 12, I've been in the industry for 12 or 13 years. I've developed these relationships. I've worked really hard to find these people, put them on a silver platter. And I obviously, that other person have the relationship. It's such a funny little balance. So interesting. I think it's an interesting.
But then, yeah, in our world, like, if you were to send me a message, hey, I'm looking for a painter, or I need, someone who's really good at wallpaper, I would happily send you like all my 10 guys that I call, please, 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 show up tomorrow. And, I would want you to benefit from those relationships as well. Like, I think that's what's nice about our inner circle. I think it's different, sharing that with clients or sharing that with the public. I think it's nice that is what our business is, and protecting that. And I think having, going back to contracts, I think having that written down in some form. I mean, you don't want to be like so undesirable to work for that it's like, I think that's why it's nice to have in there things that your employees, that your clients want to see, like that you're protecting the project, that you're protecting your work with them. That essentially it's a safe work environment, that it's encouraging, that it's, the liabilities are in the right places, that, structurally, with permits, all of those things are being put in place by the right people. Same with trades. Like a lot of our trades invoice on like a Word doc, and, we'll help translate that to our clients so it's, more professional. But at the same time, like we don't want to be liable for like a plumber's work. I'm not a plumber. So just making sure that the liability is in the right place. And that's a really delicate topic, I think, in our industry that we don't talk too much about in the public. And I think just as I've stood on stages and done home shows and talked about hiring a professional, it really applies for contracts. Like we must consult lawyers. We must consult people who have had contracts like this made for them before. And that's really, I think, like starting with the best of the best and not just being like, oh, I've got this lawyer, he'll do it for $100. Like go to someone you trust who's written this type of contract before, consult another designer who has one. In my case, I actually purchased one from another designer, and then our admin team, like edited it and we sent it to a lawyer just to make sure that it was all square and fair in the eyes of the law. But like, that was just something, this year that was like, it was a big deal, especially coming out of the pandemic with expectations very high and emotions high. And, I think clients want to know that their designers are protecting them as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So just quick question about that, because I hear do varying things. When you engage a contractor or a builder, does your client pay them directly, or do you collect the money on behalf of the client? Or sorry, does the client pay you and then you pay the contractor?
So for trades specifically, I prefer my clients to pay direct. I prefer them to pay our vendors directly for their services. When you're doing like a new build and there's staircases and millwork and plumbing and flooring, and I prefer clients to pay our trades directly, just in terms of liability. Another issue again, also product, like accountability. Like I generally, if we're doing appliances, will always try to pass on the appliance package direct and make sure the warranties are there. Things that are to the client obviously would then need to purchase direct. So the warranties are directly in their name and not in Mia Paris Design's name. Like I don't want to need to go over to someone's house and fix their fridge in 2 years from now. And like things like that. I think it's safer, better, more transparent, just passing on the vendor invoices directly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do that too. I mean, there are different ways of doing it. I know some people say, oh, you're leaving money on the table, but the liability, though we are all still liable, like it gets a little bit tricky. Like we're still the ones, I don't want to get into that heavy discussion, but that's what we've been doing. Yeah. On a small project, I might just like invoice the client for the painter or something, but on a bigger project, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It also just makes the most sense. And I think, like you said, like not getting too crazy into liability. I think if that's a word that you're not familiar with and you're in the design world running your own company, I think it's just worth asking how that applies to you. And like, a lot of designers just do decor and are hired for furniture packages and never touch walls and move staircases and new builds and stuff. So it's always a varying scale of liability. And just because we're high-end residential, we do everything from, new builds, full-scale renovations to furniture packages. Like, I just want to be covered in all aspects. That was something that I was like, let's go back to square one on this and make sure we're good.
Totally. And it's so interesting. Actually, I was having this conversation last night with my husband about the design industry and about what we do as interior designers. And I was saying, we're kind of like this hybrid model because yes, we're a service-based business, but we're also
Mhm.
reselling products, many of us, right? Full service firms tend to resell products the way that a retailer would do. And so we have this hybrid, which actually is a lot more complicated than a very straightforward,
Mhm.
I'm just going to come, here's the design, see ya, good luck, right? It's a very different
Absolutely.
ability. It's a very different amount of involvement. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
so much more layered than I think I ever realized getting into it.
Yes.
Um,
And again, scaling, right? Like once you start to get into these huge projects and making sure you have like the right management team, like I have one senior designer who also can project manage if I'm not available. Um, and I think having the right team behind you, the right admin, just to cover all your bases with that stuff. Cause like you said, it becomes almost a business within a business, selling products and making sure that, your client's still happy with the design aesthetic as well as the install, and kind of it goes on and on from there. Mhm.
yeah, that's one of the things that I've always struggled with like building the team and understanding, who goes there is the purchasing is such a big job when we're doing big projects. There's a lot of small items. There's a lot of detail. And so that's something that this year really, when we get busy, I really need to have or hire a purchaser, someone who is just
Mhm.
dedicated, is not the one doing the books and doing the admin, because that is such a big part of what we do. But then also, having designers who can project manage, to your point, like, do you project manage? Are you the one always on site troubleshooting with the trades right now? Or do you have somebody else doing that?
Generally, I like that side of design. I have a background in architecture. I like problem solving. I also think, especially with client involvement, that for our purposes, they did hire me to do the job, and I do think having a great team behind me is also something they value and covet in our business. But I think being there and being involved in those decisions, I've actually this year, I couldn't tell you how many times contractors have said, and even electricians are like, they're just so happy to see a face, that actually can problem solve and give answers. Cause I think a lot of the times when you have employees, they're given a lot of, I know in my case, in my past, you were given a lot of responsibility and not a lot of authority. And I do try to give that to my senior, who also helps project manage, just so that they have room to make decisions and move projects forward. But for the most part, I like to be there, which also means I need a team behind me to free up that availability in my schedule to be on site as much as possible.
Yeah, that's the thing with being on site, is that the person who's on site is not able to, in real time, update the drawings or check on that thing, or can you follow up vendor? And I think that's really, like, you've really hit the nail on the head there, is that person who's present and on site. I think I used to do this. I used to have this like team where there was like so much responsibility, but they didn't really have the authority to make a decision. So now that I look back on it,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of hand-tied. It's like I'm expecting them to make the decision, but I don't. But they were afraid to make the decision because then I might say like, no, that's not what I would do, because the reality was I had so much more experience. So
Mm-hmm. And I think my mentors, I'm sure you feel the same way, like even just being in the industry, that I want to bring girls along to those things too. And our team, I say girls because I actually only have girls currently working for me right now, women. But I want to bring my women along with me so they can experience those things, because you just learn by doing, really. And being a part, like every job is completely different. It doesn't even matter if it's the same style of house. It's always, there's different issues. And I think I've realized my role as a business owner is also to be a mentor and to help, pass the baton to new generations of designers, and make sure, like, that's what I valued so much at Sarah Richardson, their seniors, working with them, with Tommy. I worked with some really incredible people. Same with Design Studio Interiors. Like we had to wear all the hats. We actually had to go to site, go back and edit the drawings, and, purchase and receive and unpack crates and containers. And it's just like, then you realize, wait a minute, I could do this as a business, but I also can't do it all. And again, that's when your team really comes into play, for sure.
Yeah, it's so true. I know a lot of designers listening are constantly asking, like, should I hire? When do I hire? What do I hire? Who do I hire? Like all those questions. And I think it's so interesting. It's important that we have this conversation so that designers can see, like, there isn't really one size fits all, but there's so much power, like you say, in mentoring and bringing those people around with you, even though sometimes I know when you're starting out as a baby designer, don't want to have to pay, like when you're really tight and you're working on budget projects, you don't want to have to pay for someone to be there with you. You want to maximize your dollar. Because I know this because how I felt at the beginning. I didn't want to bring someone to site because that would just seem like we were just double the people when that person would be back at the office. But it actually did me a disservice because then as a result, those junior designers weren't really learning how to manage the job. And then when I got to the point where it was too much for me to handle, I would send those designers, intermediates to the job site. Like these are some of my mistakes that I've now in hindsight. And then I wouldn't be happy with the outcome, or they would feel, like it was too much and they couldn't handle it, or the contractor wouldn't really listen to them, or whatever it might be, because I didn't actually give them that learning. I was trying to go a little fast. I put the cart before the horse, I think, where I was like, okay, this is great. You can take the project. So then I can focus on, because we had so many projects, and I realized I have to slow it down. And we just brought on a senior designer, and he in my business. Yes. Which is going to be very wonderful at the same time. I realized even though he's senior, I need to go take him to site with me, and I've got to go back to site so that he can see how I problem solve and how I work with aides. But it's so much value. And I love hearing you talk, Mia, because it's so interesting. I've also interviewed, and I'm friends with Tiffany, who also worked in service and design. And you guys both have like such a similar perspective, which is so amazing to see. It shows the power of experience working in a design firm that really values its people and mentors them. It's very rare, I think. I think it's wonderful. It's really cool.
Absolutely. And it's really great. I love Tiff, and I worked with her. We actually had some nice crossover years. And moving back to Canada, I was really like in awe and inspired by what she was doing. And I learned a lot from just listening to her talk on podcasts, even just reaching out to her directly. She's been just so wonderful and such a great person and friend. And, I think it's like a good benchmark, to have that type of experience in the industry and to learn from other designers and other firms. And then, I know I've heard her talk about this, and I'm exactly the same, but I'm always trying to educate myself and always investing in that side of my business, whether it's the Kimberly Selden side or learning more tools on social media or connecting with individuals who just have like different skill sets than me. And that sort of also ties into like this new business that I've started. But it's just really wonderful when you open yourself up to being like, these are my passions. This is what I love to do, but here's what I don't have super strong skills in. And then there's always, if you say that out loud, you'll connect with people who like are good at those things and will shine in their own way. And I think that's like really powerful in a team. And I have heard her say this, I think it was on your podcast, but because of course I'm listening, but working in a team, like, yeah, it was so good. It was like, I remember being in the office at Sarah Richardson, and it was so much fun collaborating and talking about designs and fabric scheming and material scheming. And when I started my own business, I was so lonely. I missed my friends and my collaborators. And I just really think it takes a collective, it takes a community to build a project. And there are even better, stronger projects because you involve other designers and other team members that have different skill sets. And that's, because of being a business owner and recognizing that and wanting to scale larger with our company, it also kind of tied into wanting to do a little bit of a side hustle as well, and have more of like a passive income on top of being an interior designer. And I think you mentioned like, how we end up selling product. We end up being designers, but also being almost like vendors ourselves. And it made me really sort of think about the industry during the pandemic, what was missing, We certainly did not want to invent the wheel. We mostly wanted to reinvent the wheel. And I realized there was just an entire market that was really not saturated with like luxury and quality at like affordable pricing. And like I mentioned, I reached out to a girlfriend of mine, one of my best friends, Carly, and we started brainstorming. And we would meet once a week during the pandemic and start to discuss sort of holes in the market, whether it was like design, homeware, fashion, jewelry, whatever, things that we were passionate about. And we kind of at the beginning became obsessed with like finding one product that we could do really, really well. Originally we had like 50 products we wanted to do really, really well.
Classic entrepreneur. Do it all. These are all such great ideas, but there's so much power in one. And I'm really excited for you to talk about this because so many designers gone through this in their minds where they're like, maybe I should sell products. Maybe I should, right? And maybe I should just sell light fixtures website or vintage fine objects or whatever it might be. But I love what you're doing. And I didn't even know about this until we recently chatted. So I'm excited for design here. And if you're going to watch this, I'm going to try and get this one up on YouTube so they can get a visual. Cause in a second, I'm going to show you what's under my sleeve.
Oh, yes. Can't wait.
Okay, but I don't want to spoil it. I want you to tell your story about this whole evolution in the pandemic because now you have another business.
Yes. Can you believe it? Let's wear more hats. Like that was my thought process. I'm like, perfect, more work. But actually it's been really inspiring. I think in our industry, I'm always learning. That never stops. My dad is 77. He's a theme park architect. He's still learning. So I'm like, all right, what's next?
Stop for a second. I just have to comment because I didn't comment on it in the beginning. We'll talk about this time, but holy heck, how freaking cool is your dad's job? A theme park architect. I didn't even know that was a thing. Obviously, it makes sense. Like, how cool. You probably went to so many theme parks as a kid.
Oh my gosh. I love bragging about my parents, and his company's name is FORREC. It's FORR, like for recreation. And they do theme parks all over the world. They're worth checking out. Even if you're in the design world looking for experience, they have a whole design side and team, interior designers, obviously, as well. And their work is so inspiring. And it's really, I grew up around seeing illustrators, like hand drafters, like on drafting tables and like, eating my little lunch, like watching people put together these like $1 billion, sometimes like enterprises, whether it's in Dubai and China, they've done like Euro Disney, crazy, like Hot Wheels theme park was their latest endeavor. They've done the world's biggest ship in Dubai. They've done, it's just, the list goes on, but he is so inspired every day. And he always, he's learned a lot of skills himself along the way, like even public speaking and things that he wasn't naturally comfortable with. And I just think he's the most inspiring man, and his career arc, he didn't really start to get serious about working for a company and being invested in a company till he was in his 40s. So, he was a freelancer, lived on a school bus, like, he's just the coolest man I know. And I'm very lucky that he's my dad, but I always kind of draw inspiration from him because I'm like, he taught me a lot. He mentored me a lot. And then I want to apply that to my new businesses. And, in this case, actually, I'd love to do like a men's line too, but I've got big ideas. So,
you haven't told the listeners yet. What line did you tell us?
Yes. So Carly's my business partner. We would meet once a week. We came up with this idea to start a company of luxury linens and loungewear called ABODE. And the website's www.myabode or lovemyabode.com. Pardon me. Of course, I screwed that up. Lovemyabode.com. Same with our Instagram.
We'll add the link in the show notes. So if anyone's listening,
amazing.
You're like, it'll be in the show notes. Yes.
Awesome. And so we decided that there was a little bit of a hole in the market for 100% cotton, fine linens and luxury loungewear. And what the big sort of testament to fashion is right now is that we are all living in our workout gear, in our PJs. And I was like, well, I want to be on my Zoom meetings, like right out of bed. So like, quite honestly with you, I got up this morning, I showered and I changed out of one pair of PJs and into the other. And we do, 100% cotton bed linens and 100% cotton, PJ loungewear, products. And we've started with a trio of colors. So we have camel, midnight, and snow is our winter launch. And they all sort of have this really pretty classic detailed trim. It's something that is replicated on our bedding as well. We have a nice clean midnight trim on some of our white cotton bedding. And it's really about reflecting like the traveler, the investor, the entrepreneur, the strong female, the business owner, the family person, someone who doesn't have time to shop forever for the best set of bedding. We just offer that product at a very reasonable price. So like, I'm very familiar with bed linens in our industry and putting together beautiful bedding for clients. And it can get quite pricey. And I do think it's an investment, but I also think it's something that you can have repeat customers on. So that was one of our big sort of target demographics, was we want people to really fall in love with the product. So it needs to be quality. And then we want them to repurchase, and we want them to not only want it for themselves, but for others. And so it does need to have a universal quality to it. And I think, the colorways, our fabrics, our overall aesthetic, if you go to our Instagram too, is just like, we want it to be kind of seductive and sexy, but also very clean and aesthetically something you would feel comfortable wearing every single day. I pair this with jeans. I throw it on, with a jacket over to go grab groceries. Like we call them the all day PJ because you can really wear them all day.
So this is the big reveal. If you're watching this, okay. So I feel like
I love it.
I'm wearing the midnight.
Come on out. You get a PJ. You get a PJ.
Button undone. It's way sexier. There we go. Undo the button.
Right?
I mean,
it looks so good. So good.
I'm going to say this. This is not this is not sponsored. These are the most freaking comfortable pajamas or shirt or loungewear that I've ever worn. Like my kids kept touching me. They're like, "Mommy, can I hug you again?"
Yes. So I love this. This is the best thing to hear.
So amazing.
You look absolutely gorgeous. So to me, every woman I've seen put on them, they look so beautiful on you. You sent me a photo. I was like, these are made for you, first of all. And the number one thing in our first drop was really client feedback. Like we wanted to know what our customers thought. And we were like ready, pens and papers to take notes and go back to the drawing board. And across the board, everyone's been like buttery, soft, and excellent quality. And we've had such a good response. And like, I'm so excited to hear you love them.
It's like, I already decided I need to get the white ones for my mom for Christmas. Cause she's going to love them because she's wearing like loungewear. And I'm going to go through my whole Christmas wish list. The bedding, I'm just like very curious because as an interior designer, we're buying sheets for our clients, as well as for ourselves. I have this farmhouse that I'm building and I'm like, that made me think. I'm like, shoot. We're doing this Airbnb. I'm like, I'm going to need bedding, like so many sets of what? So they're 100% cotton. Are they like a crisp, crunchy cotton, or are they more of like a sateen, soft cotton?
So I actually strayed away from the super sateen finish. There's definitely different, like, I don't love when companies do a lot of coating on the natural cotton. Ours are like, the longer you have them and wash them and care for them, the better and better and better they get. I'm somebody that like is obsessed with having white bedding, and we let our dogs sleep with us at night. So I actually have a little hack I'll tell you about, but they're 100% cotton. They're not super lightweight. They're very like dense and rich and luxurious. So when you touch them and feel them, it's not like a weighted blanket, but it's almost like having like a really, like almost like you're in a hotel. Like you feel really, and I want to say like a 5-star hotel, because this isn't like a 3-star hotel, 3.5 star. We're talking like when you're in a hotel and you're like, what is this bedding? Like that's the type of bedding that we've recreated essentially. And it's taken a lot of trial and error with different vendors and suppliers. And I think that was the highlight of the design side of it was Carly and I had a lot of involvement, even in like the length of the arms on the PJs and the pants, because I have very long legs. We don't want you to wash them. Yes.
I love that. Could I just say I put them on because I have long legs. I was always that kid in high school that would have to get the tall jeans and they still weren't tall enough. Like back in the 90s, like tall, they didn't have all these extra lengths and options and features. And I love that the sleeves are long and I can like hold them and that they're long. Oh my gosh.
Yes, totally.
Not know that was intentional. I thought I was just like, oh, maybe I just got lucky. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Like even down to our sizing chart, everything. I know we would love to introduce like plus size as we grow as a business. But definitely the length was a huge thing. Also for like, I know some people put things in the dryer and we've tested all of those options and they don't shrink. So that's a huge deal because I was like the capri wearing PJ girl all throughout my life.
Oh my God, all of my PJs are like you buy them. So my podcast cover image is me wearing these pink Kate Spade flannel pajamas that my girlfriend bought me.
You look amazing. Yes.
So cute. Well, I don't know if I even still have them. They've ripped, they've fallen apart. But they shrunk slowly over the years to the point where they became capris. You're right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was not I want like cozy, comfortable. And also when things get too tight,
yes.
It would not be your problem because you were like tiny and so fit. But I've put on so much pandemic. When things are, I mean, I know you work at it. I don't try. So there we go. But
you can come work out with me.
Oh God, I need the motiverse. But when jammies get too tight, I'm like, oh, this isn't like, I want to be able to let it all hang out.
Yeah.
But then not
from.
So for me, with these on, I was like, I'm going to tell you, I was like, oh boy, I really hope these like look okay on me. Cause I'm going to like, poor Mia. I'm like, I can't take a picture. I'm going to tell her.
Of course.
Like, okay, here we go. Fingers crossed. And I love the band. This sounds like an ad. I'm sorry. It's not supposed to be.
No.
Like the bottoms have this really cool elastic waist.
Yeah.
It's different than okay, you see it and try them on to know what I'm talking about.
But hold on, let me show you because this is how I wear mine. I tuck mine in.
Yeah.
So like I like to be like comfy and like just who cares what I had for dinner? Like I'm just putting these on and that's the end of my day. But they're very like flattering.
You have nothing to hang out, but if you do have something to hang out like I do, and you don't like things tight around your tummy anymore, perfect. Anyway.
Yes. And I, first of all, you don't have anything to hang out. And I also think that this is the world we live in. We want to be comfortable. We've been at home for 2 years and now we're like, I'm going out in the world. I'm not squeezing into these jeans anymore. I mean, maybe, but I think also having that transitional, like I used to be obsessed with like day to night wear that you could like this top, you could just throw a necklace on and like go out to the clubs, which isn't happening, but I love day to night stuff. So the all day PJ was like a natural evolution of that. And I think, same with our business, starting with these 2 key items, we're like, okay, we'll do 2 really well, but we love the fashion side. We love the homeware side and we love the luxury side. So what we've realized, and like you said, even with the wash and wear, people loved so much the sets that we're actually introducing short sets as well. So you can purchase like the short sleeve and shorts for summertime and then mix and match. So if you're like over the pants, but I'm a shorts with long sleeve girl. So I like to mix those up. But then you still have the elastic band. Like the band was a huge thing for both of us. Like we did a lot of iterations of that back and forth with our manufacturer. And we want it to be something that like my mom loves wearing hers, all of our like 50 plus friends love wearing them. And then even just down to like, my friends in our 20s. No, I'm kidding. We're in our 30s. But the idea too is like, I found them even for our dogs. Like that's the hilarious thing is they are such a classic look and style. one of the other really fun things was introducing the camel color, because we didn't see that on the market. We wanted something that wasn't available. And then beyond that, with our new launch, I think everyone who's purchased their first set or is yet to purchase is now waiting for the snow color, because it's hard to find. Like it's not easy to find that classic white PJ. And we did do like a lining in the white so that it's like, you can be modest and still protected, and nice, thick, kind of cozy feel to it. So we're excited.
So the last question I have for you, and then I'm going to have you share a nugget of wisdom with everyone, is how are you doing it? How are you managing? Because like I'm trying to manage 2 businesses, right? Mine are different. I've got the coaching and the podcast, and then I've got the design. How are you managing the 2? Like, what does your week look like? Or is it a challenge? Is it easy? And a business partner, so that probably is a huge help. Like, how has it affected kind of your day to day having 2 businesses?
Yeah, I mean,
instead of 1.
Very good point, because we did start this business in the pandemic, and a lot of our design meetings were very virtual at the time. So we were able to meet on Zoom and not have that 1-hour drive to set or to site. And in this case with Carly, like we both shoulder, we were just talking about this morning, we shoulder the responsibility at different times. And obviously life happens and work happens for both of us. And we tend to like help each other out with that partnership. So at different times when I have more time available, I'll tackle some things, and then vice versa. But our real structure is we still meet once a week. We get up every Wednesday morning, first thing while we're fresh. It took us a couple iterations of like daytime, week time options, and Wednesday really works for both of us. And then we kind of conquer and divide all the work. And I think having that accountability is a really big deal. Having someone to check in with every week, even if you've done nothing. There's weeks where it's like, okay, they're in production, I'm working on this, I'm still doing marketing for this, but we'll touch base next week. Or like I get slammed with design stuff and nothing happens. And it's just being realistic. I think juggling, as you have a family and a huge career, and it's a lot. And I think just being real when you feel a burnout coming, making sure you are careful about that. And it's also, I think, in this design world, really important that you love what you do. And it sounds so cheesy, but this was something like I had been craving for years. Like I loved watching other people do it. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to try that. And I will say it's not for the faint of heart, but doing it with a business partner and someone who has a different set of skills is really rewarding, because we're both learning a lot every single day and new challenges and overcoming them. But having someone to talk to about these things and work through with someone else is really great. And I think it brings us closer, makes our business stronger. And it's really just about investing. Like my priority is still Mia Paris Design and my clients. And I just really take that very seriously, because we're working with very specific timelines and big budgets. And ABODE is a passion project. And I think taking the skills we've learned from the design world and filling a void that's necessary in the homewares and luxury loungewear line is something I think over time, because of the quality of it, will just speak for itself. And then at that point we can scale. So I said to her, like, obviously we want to grow our company, but I think we've eaten a lot of humble pie and we're just taking our time. We want to do things right. And over the next couple of years, we set ourselves, like we had an annual goal for the first year. And I really wanted that first year to be, this is actually a great point for other entrepreneurs. I really wanted to be in a fulfillment center. I didn't want everything to come to my house and be shipping direct.
Right. Is that what's happening right now? Are you guys packaging and shipping it?
We never ended up having to do that. We immediately located, it was my year one goal was that. And we immediately brought a fulfillment company on board, and we just go and do quality control and make sure all of our stuff is how we expect it to be. And they package and ship our personalized notes. And it's the beauty in it is that we have same day shipping. So I think it's a little different around the holidays, but on our website, we're able to say, like, if you order before 10 a.m., you'll get your bedding and PJs before the end of the day if you live in the GTA. So that for us is like amazing. Yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't know it was possible. That's really cool. Holy
I know.
You guys are like,
well, because we're in competition with, exactly. We're in competition with Amazon, and we want to be the quality version with the speed, of delivery. Because sometimes I've had clients message me, like, my parents are coming to stay with me and I'll just ship them from our fulfillment center some bedding and it arrives the same day. And that's a lovely way to do business. So they're not venturing out to more accessible homewares and luxury linens. They're using us. So that's the best.
Oh my goodness, girl, I could talk to you for hours. So amazing. I love chatting with other but also like other multi-passionate entrepreneurs. I love seeing what you're doing with your business. It's so inspiring. I love what you just said about accountability. And I think that's a really important takeaway for anyone listening. Yes, you have a business partner for accountability, but if you don't have a business partner, there are other ways to get accountability. And it's so interesting because I'm listening to the audio version of a book called The One Thing. Have you read it? I don't remember the author.
I'm writing it down. Nope.
It's really, really good. Another entrepreneur put me onto it. And the chapter I was listening to this morning on the drive in was about accountability and how the most successful entrepreneurs and people in the world, not just entrepreneurs, have some form of accountability, whether it is a partner or a coach, somebody you can connect with and say, like you said, sometimes you didn't get the thing done, but it's knowing that you have to go. And so I remember my uncle once saying, he owns multiple businesses, and he said one of the best things he ever did in his business was to get a board of directors. Obviously, this is a bigger scale. But even he said when it was really small, because the board of directors keeps you accountable. And it's always remembered that maybe you don't need a board of directors, but having somebody else in your life who yes, they can cheerlead you on, but they can also be there. You're more successful when you know you have to get something done for someone else.
Right? So what's that saying? I'm going to butcher it. Like give a busy person your to-do list or something, but like they'll get it done.
And you know what? We have a hard time holding ourselves accountable, right? Like as women especially, but even just as humans. So I love that you said that. Okay. What's your last nugget of wisdom before we sign off today?
Well, I'm going to take a thread off of that actually, because I actually believe all of us entrepreneurs are artists. And I don't think we should be afraid to just put pen to paper, like just get started. If it's something you're passionate about, something you want to do, don't be afraid of failure. I am a recovering perfectionist. Just get it out there, get the idea out there, start dreaming, start manifesting. I promise you, if you put intention behind these dreams and you just really treat yourself like an artist, you're going to create such beautiful things. And I think that's what this world really needs right now is more design entrepreneurs who are inspired and really just putting themselves out there. Just be human, be yourself, collaborate, get out there, create, and don't be afraid.
I love that. Progress over perfection, right? All day long.
All day long.
Oh my gosh, Mia, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Before we sign off, can you please let everyone listening all the places they can find and follow you?
Yes, absolutely. So also thank you very, very, very much for having me and for twinning with me today in our PJs. You look so beautiful. And I love listening to your podcast.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute joy.
Let's take a picture. You look so much cuter, but I'm going to take it anyway.
You look so cute. And I love the toque. It's very appropriate.
I know. It snowed this morning. Hello.
I know.
Okay, so
just in time for the snow.
Well, oh no, it didn't take no more time. I swear. I know how to use an iPhone, I swear.
So cute. And just in time for our launch of our snow collection of our PJs, which is exciting. So you can find me at Instagram at Mia Paris Design. It's PARRES. Everyone always gets that mixed up, but Mia Paris Design. Our website is www.miaparisdesign.com. And ABODE is lovemyabode.com and lovemyabode on Instagram. And those seem to be our best ways to connect with people these days. And I can't wait to see all of you guys in our PJs one day.
Amazing. And I really hope that you do a photo shoot in the snow pajamas in the snow. If you haven't,
I like this.
My marketing brain is like tick, 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 tick. Oh, you need to get some snow first, but
we got to get you some snow PJs too. I'll task you with the marketing of the snow photo shoot.
Whoa. If I'm going north to ski country in Ontario this winter, there might be some. Totally. Oh my gosh.
Any opportunity. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Wasn't Mia just lovely? I mean, not only does she basically look like a supermodel all the time, and if you follow her Instagram, I mean, I watch her and I'm like, man, this girl is just like so amazing. How does she have the most beautiful Instagram? She looks amazing all the time. Half the time I'm looking frumpy and it's just, I love it. I love how open she is to sharing with all of us, and especially her advice when it comes to a business. And I thought, I'm not sure how much more you guys would love for us to talk about this, but I loved hearing her take on team building. And I think especially because I'm at this point right now in my life where I'm looking to be intentional about the team that I'm building and growing to help grow and scale my business. And so I thought that was a really interesting insight. I find it fascinating that the two people who I know that I've now interviewed for the podcast who used to work for Sarah Richardson Design have a very similar way of giving back, and they have a very similar mindset, which I think is really quite phenomenal. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Join our designer meetup Facebook group. There is a great place to share resources with other designers. We are all like-minded and open to sharing and helping. It's just on Facebook. You can go search it up. We can put the link in our show notes. We'll link Love My Abode in the show notes, as well as Mia's design firm. You can check out all her beautiful work. And I would love to hear from you. So let me know if you enjoyed this podcast. Screenshot and share it on social. And I'll see you soon.